Alright, picture yourself in this scenario. You're on Roblox, scrolling through the endless ocean of slop, and you see a little game called Vampire Hunters Free. And you think to yourself, hey, this looks cool. Or maybe you remembered playing Vampire Hunters 2. Either way, you decide to give it a shot. You do the tutorial, pick your gadgets, pick your vampire ability, pick your gun, and you jump headfirst into a public server. And now, if you're watching this, then chances are your first time playing went horribly. You were extremely confused and aren't sure why you're dying constantly. Vampire Hunters 3 is a very fun game, but it doesn't explain important mechanics such as Lumina or, hell, how to play as a vampire. So I'm here to help you make some sense out of this chaos. I will be going over general information and advice about the different roles and mechanics in the game. I will not be going over everything in detail, since this is just a beginner's guide. Now, before we get into the actual gameplay, let's arm ourselves first. Basically everything in this game is powerful in the right hands, but we'll focus on some of the more easy to use items. First of all, gadgets. I'll quickly go over the 6 gadgets you have access to when you start playing the game. The pocket knife is a very versatile weapon gadget. You can stab people with it, or use it to escape crabs easier, at the cost of using up your whole knife. You can also throw it, but you'll have to pick it back up later. The DNA tester is a lot more useful than it may seem. Its basic function is to scan people to see if they're the vampire or not. However, you can also hold right click to place down a DNA tripod, and if someone walks over to it, it will beep with a green light if they're an ally, and beep with a red light if they're an enemy. That's not all though. It can also scan dead bodies. If you scan 3 bodies as a survivor, it will reveal the location of the vampire for a short time. And if you scan 5 bodies as a vampire, it will reveal the location of a nearby survivor for a short time.
It's dead!
The medkit heals 70 HP. There's not much else to it really. Garlic is mainly used to block vampire grabs. If you hold it out when a vampire is attempting to grab you, it will block their grabs, at the cost of some durability. If a vampire grabs you when it's in your pocket, however, they will still have to wait a few seconds to get rid of your garlic before they can start dealing damage. Alternatively, you can also hold right click to eat the garlic to heal a small amount of health and gain a few seconds of complete grab immunity. If you're a vampire though, you can still eat it to regain health and gain immunity to the effects of garlic. The baseball bat can be charged up to deal more damage. It's quite precise, but if you hit an enemy with a fully charged hit, they will take a lot of damage. And if you hit a vampire that's grabbing someone with a fully charged hit, they will immediately let go of whoever they're grabbing. Bandages heal less than the medkit, but can be used 5 times. This is useful because it lets you control how much you heal someone or yourself. In my opinion, you should avoid using the medkit or baseball bat. The baseball bat, while strong, is very risky to use because of how easy it is to hit your teammates with it. And the medkit, honestly, just use bandages instead. As for vampire abilities, at the start, you only have access to 2 of them, Heat Sense and Huntsman. Heat Sense lets you detect people through walls by holding right click, however, a player will be harder to detect if they're too far away or low on health. In addition, you can hold R to create a heat shield, which blocks bullets and damages people that touch it. However, remember that if a player touches a heat shield 5 times, it will automatically be destroyed. Huntsman lets you shoot out a tranquilizer dart with R to temporarily put a survivor to sleep. They will wake up after some time or if they take enough damage. Holding right click will let you place down a bear trap. If someone steps on it, they'll take damage and will have to complete a QTE to free themselves. Remember though, that a trap can be destroyed with bullets or gadgets. Now, while I do consider Huntsman to be a little better, I think you should use Heat Sense to start off. You don't know all the maps yet, meaning you don't know most of the hiding spots, so Detect is going to be quite useful. Guns, on the other hand, are personal preference really. Pistols kind of dominate the meta, but I personally prefer SMGs because I find it easier to hit my shots with them. Try out the guns in the testing range and see which one works for you. Now, there's one important thing that the game doesn't actually give you for free. Perks. They give you all sorts of passive effects, such as stronger attacks or reduced recoil. Take a look at all of them and see which one fits your playstyle. But if you can't choose, I strongly suggest Viability. This perk is, well, viable. While the increase in HP for Survivor isn't exactly huge, the difference when you're the vampire is quite big. And even then, an extra 25 HP can go a long way. Congratulations, you're now prepared to take on the vampire apocalypse. Nah, I'm just kidding. you're still going to die a lot. But either way, let's go over how a typical round of VH3 goes. I would like to mention that when you're spectating, you should observe how other players play. You might learn some useful tricks or hiding spots. Alright, so you spawned in. What are you supposed to do? Two things. 1. Turn on every light that you can. A lot of people forget to do this actually. Trust me, the game becomes a lot easier once the area is lit up. And 2. Become a homeless man and search the map for food. Usually it's scattered around places where you can expect to find food, like a cafeteria, a shelf, or an office. Sometimes you may find band-aids or vitamins. These are better than food since they heal 20 HP in total. And quite rarely, you may even find a lucky food. These are upgraded food items with a golden texture. Now, 2 important things regarding food. First of all, the more food you eat, the more bites you'll need to fully consume it. Second of all, if you hold right click, you can offer food to other players. You can also press left click when offering food to throw it, which you can use to make inventory space. Now that your pockets are stuffed with treats, the vampire hunting can actually begin. If you don't have a DNA tester, the best you can do is stick with the hunter and wait for the actual threat to arrive. Once a vampire attacks, you may be tempted to try to punch or stab them. But listen to me, because this is very important advice. Do not get into the hunter's way. Punching does very little damage, and a knife isn't as powerful as a bullet. Play it smart and only attempt to attack if the hunter isn't actively trying to shoot them. Of course, when the hunter gets grabbed, you can try to grab their gun and shoot the vampire, but you already know this from the tutorial. Now for some general advice when you're playing as a human. 1. You want to stick together with your team. If you spread out, it's just gonna make it easier for the vampire to pick you off one by one. 2. If you have the gun, don't hide with it, unless you're the last one standing. If you see an ominous message appear in the chat, it means it's just you left. 3. Heal your frickin' teammates. When you hover over a player, you'll see a heart next to their name. If the heart is white, it means their HP is full. If it's red, however, it means they're hurt and you should heal them. This is why I suggested that you bring bandages, since you won't need to waste an entire medkit on someone who's got a small cut. 4. If your health gets drained by a vampire bite, you will die instantly. However, if your health gets drained by anything else, such as fall damage or a weapon, and your teammates are still alive, you will instead be injured. When you're injured, your vision becomes blurry and you can only crawl, and you have to wait for a teammate to pick you up, or the vampire to finish you off. Remember though, you can only get injured once. If you get stabbed to death again, you're dead for real, my G. 5. Hit F on ammo boxes to mark them for whoever has the gun. 6. You can hold certain props by holding F on them. You can, for example, block a door with a chair or another heavy object, and force the vampire to break it down. You can also attempt to use them to hide or as a shield, but this doesn't always work. I think I've covered basically all you need to know to being a survivor. There are still other gadgets and vampire abilities you should keep an eye out for, but I'll cover those later. For now, let's move on to the hunter. You may have noticed that when your gun activated, a scary blue bar appeared to the right of your screen. This, my friend, is your Lumina. It recharges by itself and can be used to pull off special attacks. Just remember that you need to be unarmed to use most of them. First off, Lumina Punch. You press R to activate it, and then you can punch forward to hit an enemy. You can use it once you've got half of your Lumina bar, but it will do more damage if it's full. Similarly to the baseball bat, if you hit a vampire that's grabbing someone, they'll let go. Next up, counterblock. You raise your hands up, and if you are attacked with a grab or a melee weapon, you will negate it and usually deal a small amount of damage in return. Finally, we have Lumina Escape. This is only usable when your Lumina bar is full, and it deactivates once a minute has passed. It lets you escape a vampire grab instantly by pressing R at the cost of your whole Lumina bar. Now, if you suck at shooting, like me, There's a chance that the vampire will completely leave you alone, meaning you'll eventually run out of ammo. If this happens, run over to an ammo box as fast as humanly possible and refill. Don't waste any time, you want to be back in the battle as soon as possible. Also, remember that guns are able to destroy certain traps from a distance, for example bear traps or trap mines. Other than those things, being the hunter is basically the same as playing as a survivor. You shouldn't run away if you lose your gun though. You can still help by Lumina punching the vampire whenever you can. Okay, now for the most important role in the game that does not have any tutorial whatsoever, despite desperately needing one. The vampire. There's a lot to cover here, so just bear with me. When you start, you also want to scavenge for food, which is made easier by the fact that sprinting as a vampire doesn't take away stamina. But remember that using parkour moves and jumping does, and if you run out, you can't sprint either. Now, unlike a survivor, you want to not turn on any lights and turn off any that are on. Vampires have slight night vision, and if you still can't see, you still have a flashlight. Just remember to turn off lights discreetly, as a smart survivor will most likely catch on to what you're doing. Now, you could run into a crowd when transformed to start killing, but before you do that, try to find players who are by themselves. They will most likely try to run away to where the people are, but you'll still have an advantage, since they'll have less healing. Once you do inevitably run into the hunter, make sure you use whoever you're grabbing as a meat shield. Never turn your back to the hunter. If someone is attempting to hit you with a gadget, you can try to turn around for a split second to attempt to block it. But remember, bullets hurt! Another very important thing to mention, once someone escapes your grab, you will start spinning uncontrollably. When this happens, do not stand still. Instead, you should jump. Don't spam jump though, because that will use up too much stamina. Jump frequently, but don't be predictable. Also, you can still grab people when you're spinning, so try to spam left click if people are crowding around you. You might be able to grab someone this way. Basically, the vampire gameplay loop is dodge, grab, and repeat until everyone is dead. Pray that whoever has the gun sucks at shooting, and remember to use your gadgets and abilities to gain an advantage. Once everyone is dead, you'll most likely have to run around the map to find the people who are hiding. This is why I recommended you to take heat sense. Remember that as a new player, you shouldn't expect to always find everyone. Some maps have a lot of hiding spots. You'll learn them over time, or you can watch YellowFing's videos about maps. Don't do that yet though, finish my video first. It's totally better. An important thing to mention is that if a player has been dead for 30 seconds, you'll be able to eat their corpse, even if they were a fellow vampire. Yes, you can cannibalize your vampire brothers. You evil motherfucker. Simply hold F on one of their body parts and feast on them to regain health. However, if a corpse is in an inconvenient location, you can move it somewhere else by crouching, holding left click on it, then standing up to carry it. Then just move it wherever you want and release left click. However, never forget, you are on a time limit. Don't stall too much, because if the survivors have a lot of health, then you're probably going to lose if you take too much time planning your attack. By the way, if you see a text saying that you'll be revealed if you don't satisfy your hunger above your health bar, this just means that you'll be forced into your vampire form unless you kill someone. One last thing I want to mention is that some people, including myself, like to do this thing where they hide under an object and shoot the vampire when they try to crawl to them. I see way too many vampires die to this. So here's what you do. If a player is hiding under something like a car, just frickin' break it! Stand on top of it and keep swiping at it until it's destroyed. It's really that easy. Okay, I think I finally covered all there is to know when it comes to the roles. I'm not going to talk about the special game modes since they're mostly self-explanatory, but I will briefly go over all the other gadgets and vampire abilities in the game. Let's start with the gadgets. Barricade is used to block off certain ways with wooden planks. The person who placed the barricade can also remove it by holding right click on it. The defib kit can be used to revive dead players, revive people who are injured faster by holding left click on them, or pick yourself back when you're injured. However, a person that's been dead for around 30 seconds was punished for friendly fire, or has disconnected, cannot be revived anymore. Now you may think that the barricade and defib are useless as a vampire, but that's not entirely true. As a vampire you can use barricade to block off an area that you are sure has nobody in it, and with defib you can revive a dead player to kill them again and get even more time and health. Body armor gives you damage resistance until it breaks. You can also give it to another person, and that's kind of it. Smoke bomb is extremely annoying because absolutely nobody understands how to use it properly. You can't just toss it on a vampire in a crowd. That's just gonna give them a free ticket to escape. It's much better utilized when you're by yourself to confuse the vampire, or confuse a crowd if you're the vampire. Food supply is an interesting support gadget. It has 10 random food items inside, and you can hold left click to take one out. If your inventory is full, it will just fall on the ground. You can also put it down with right click to let anyone take a piece for themselves, including enemies. But it's pretty decent, not gonna lie. The axe is sort of like a combination between the baseball bat and the pocket knife. It lets you hit an enemy twice and deal solid damage, and you can hold right click to throw it. However, its main purpose is to destroy props. It doesn't lose any durability when it hits an object, and destroys props significantly easier than anything else in the game. The flare is another extremely annoying gadget that nobody knows how to use properly. It's used similarly to the smoke bomb. Again, you can't just throw it on the vampire in a crowd and expect good results. You're supposed to light it up to signal teammates for help when you're alone and the vampire is attacking you. If you manage to throw it directly on top of someone, the flare will get stuck on them and deal a little bit of damage until they rip it off. And again, as the vampire, it's useful to confuse crowds. The slingshot lets you attack enemies from a distance as if you had a gun. It doesn't have too much range, but it is hit scan. If you can hit all your shots, you can deal a lot of damage. Plus, when you hit an enemy, their screen slightly twitches. Slingshot is very fun to use. The crucifix can be placed down by holding left click and will untransform any vampire that comes into its radius. It is wooden though, so it's easily destroyable. Alternatively, you can hold right click when the crucifix is in your hands to get a small speed boost and a bit of regen. One more thing to mention is that if you're the vampire, you can place your crucifix on yourself and other vampires to gain quite a major speed boost. The pepper spray has two uses and will temporarily confuse and blur the screen of whoever you click on. If you click and don't hit anyone, don't worry, you only lose spray when you actually hit someone. The drone is quite a complex gadget. You can throw it out and then control it remotely. You can either set it to taser mode or heal mode. Taser mode lets you zap anyone you point at to temporarily immobilize them, but its range is quite short. You technically have an infinite amount of these since they recharge slowly. Heal mode lets you do the same thing, but heals instead of zapping. Aside from that, it can also scan the area to mark enemies and guns for everyone to see by holding left click. If you're not controlling the drone, it will scan nearby enemies that walk near it. Do keep in mind that the drone is very fragile, and just one vampire swipe is enough to destroy it. The net is able to prevent players from doing anything besides moving until they break out of it. Remember that if a player escapes the net, it can be picked up to be used one more time. Night vision goggles do exactly what their name suggests. They will also highlight any players that are in your sight with a small green border, which is useful when you're blinded. Oh, and by the way, the NVGs would normally show you the location of a dropped gun through walls, but this feature is currently bugged. The Epic gun has 2 shots and can heal from very far away. You can also hold right click to heal yourself with it. Just remember that you have to reload after every shot. The stake can be used to stab people. Or you can hold left click to charge it up and stick it into whoever you hit, causing them to constantly bleed and be slowed down until they pull it out. If your stake had enough durability, you can usually pick it back up after it falls out. Also, if the vampire grabs a person who is impaled with the stake, it will automatically fall out. The energy drink will boost your speed significantly, reduce your stamina usage, and give you a bit of regen. The taser is used to temporarily immobilize a player for a few seconds. They will instantly break out if they take enough damage though. The frying pan can hit players to slightly daze them, or charged up for more damage and to make a target spin. Alternatively, you can hold right click to block attacks from the front. The bow has a long range and is hit scan. You have 3 arrows and you can shoot it to deal a lot of damage. You'll have to pick an arrow back up if you wanted to use it again though. The regen kit takes longer to heal than the med kit, but heals more HP over time. The holy water will heal teammates, damage enemies, cure negative effects such as poison, destroy any abilities that the vampire puts on the field, and temporarily prevents vampires from using their abilities. You can also press right click to instantly splash it on yourself if there's no time to aim. And finally, the Surge Glove can be equipped on yourself or given to another player and will heal you when you hold the middle mouse button. It only heals 60 HP, but its main advantage is that it can be used literally whenever, even when grabbed or stunned. Alright, gadgets covered, now let's get to the vampire abilities. Blackout might seem useless, but being able to disable all lights on the map and having access to healing just from holding right click on a lamp is quite useful. It also has a passive that causes survivor flashlights to flicker on and off when you're near them. Alternatively, instead of causing a blackout, you can temporarily immobilize anyone nearby using static shock. Cloak is the absolute bane of my existence, and I wish castration upon anyone who uses it. Its main function is that it lets the vampire become invisible, but it also has a little ability called Phantom Abduction. God, I fucking hate this ability. It teleports the vampire and whoever they were grabbing to somewhere else on the map, and I hate it, and it's the worst thing ever. It also has a passive that causes dead bodies to vanish after some time. Kangaroo can jump very high and kick very hard. Alternatively, it can very angrily stomp around. Military can throw a variety of grenades and place explosive traps. Decoy is able to disguise players as vampires. You can also disguise yourself as a dead player. It also has the ability to throw out a clone of yourself, which will attempt to grab a nearby player. If they escape, they will attempt to slash at them instead. Decoy can also do other magic shit as well, such as putting everyone around you to sleep. Venom is an ability that people tend to call weak. I think those people are stupid. It is able to poison players to deal damage over time, and also poison food to make it harm instead of heal. It also has an ability that causes the vampire to dash around and poison everyone nearby, although for a shorter duration. Alternatively, it can throw out a grenade that creates a toxic cloud. Storm is able to create lightning strikes and blow people away with wind. If you ever see an area light up blue, run! Alternatively, it can create tornadoes and hailstorms, which people like to combo together, and it's very annoying. Rock is able to create earthquakes. When an earthquake is happening, survivors will get a bar above their screen that they have to balance by holding left or right, otherwise they will trip over. Oh yeah, it can also throw rocks. Very deadly move. Infect allows you to transform a weakened survivor into an equally weak vampire, at the cost of some of your max HP. When a survivor gets vampirified, they will be temporarily knocked out, and when they wake up they'll be able to transform into a vampire, with very slow mobility and no abilities. But you know, it's nice to have some backup. In addition, Infect lets you cast a beam that steals people's health, or can throw the poison grenade with purple and loud. Supersonic's able to create shockwaves that deafen and confuse nearby players. It can also place traps that do the same thing, although not as effectively. It can also sprint at people to trip them over, or send out a shriek to stun people from a distance. Black Ice can create patches of ice on the ground to cause people to slip. If you directly hit a person with Ice Cast for long enough, it will completely freeze them. In addition, Black Ice can throw frost bolts, freeze people instantly using Freeze Punch, and trap people in ice domes. Diamond Skin lets you coat yourself in armor that will block any attack, but getting shot will take away its durability, which doesn't recharge. It can also create large crystals to block pathways and deal a little bit of damage. Volatile lets you create a small explosion around yourself, or create a huge explosion that is able to instantly kill anyone near you, but takes some time to charge up, and has only one use. Using either will deal some damage to you as well. Volatile also has an ability to let you dash forward slightly, or pull out and throw the fucking sun. Wildfire lets you cast flames that hurt anybody who walks on them, and can also punch people really hard. It can also throw a trap instead of casting fire. And finally, Chiroptera lets you fly around and shoot out bats to distract and slightly harm people. You can also sacrifice your ability to fly for a map-wide effect that highlights people who move while it's active. Well, that's basically everything covered. Again, I didn't go into too much detail, these are just the basics, but I hope you learned something nonetheless. This is a wonderful game and I really wanted to get new players. This is the first time we've done anything like this, so sorry if this video isn't as good as it could be. If you liked the video, consider subscribing, and if you have anything else that you think new players should know, then leave it in the comments. If you have a friend who you want to get into VH3, you can send them this video, if you'd like. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video. See ya.
It's him.
Ow!